We will call our meeting to order with the approval of the minutes of our last meeting.
I move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The minutes are approved. Our procedure for our meetings is that our plan director, Matt Sandy, will introduce each case. And as he's doing that, if it's your case, we'd ask that you make your way to the end of the table here and be prepared to share what you'd have us to know. We may have some questions for you. As you start your remarks, we ask that you state your name for the record so it's part of the official minutes. After we've had some dialogue with you, then we will see if anyone is here either to support your case or oppose your case. And after we've taken all that testimony, then we will have some discussion, come to some resolution for your case. We do have some paperwork we have to fill out at the close of each case. So there'll be a very brief delay while we do that, and then Matt will call the next case. So with that, Matt.
All right. So only other thing I'll add to that is if your project is approved today and does require a permit, they don't know what's happening in the office. So please wait to go in as early this afternoon if you got all your ducks in a row. So that way there could be a line and ends up not being able to get you anywhere. So first one, though, we can pick up on the agenda. We've got two continued cases. First one we have is for Mike Bauer. Is anyone here for Bauer? Okay. I did speak with him. If you remember right, this one, Epworth Forest, they were looking at a pretty substantial residential. We continued it for a survey as well as a contractor's report on the existing structure they're adding on to. Talking with them, they basically still hadn't had the survey done yet. They're waiting on timing, which isn't a surprise. So they have asked for a month continuance on that. So that would be our July meeting.
I move to continue it another month.
I'll second that.
We have a motion to continue for months. Second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's carried.
Jump ahead here. Okay, next continued case we can pick up with is variance 2025-115 for Corin Hendricks. And this is a variance request that would permit construction of a new residence 20 foot 4 inches from the right of way of Mulberry Street, 12 foot 5 inches from the right of way of South Street, and 14 foot 5 inches from the water's edge. Property is located on the east side of Mulberry Street and 0 feet north of South Street in Tippecanoe Township. Right there's the petitioner's property in question. If you remember right, on this one, petitioners had some discussion with them. We also had touch base with our county highway department. This is right next to the bridge that connects South Street out to the island off of Mulberry. With that original conversation with the highway department, there were concerns and the petitioner requested a month to be able to talk with them. We talked with them. Circling back around after talking with Steve Moriarty, who also had their engineer review the project. They did raise concerns, but at the same time, their bottom line statement was they would request it not be any closer than the existing house. Request is actually 2 foot closer than the closest point of the existing house now, and we'll show that there. But ultimately, that's where they came back. Biggest premise behind that was even if they don't have the right to go on the property, they still felt there could be substantial damage to the home through construction or reconstruction of the bridge. So that was Phil Beer's comments as well as Steve Moriarty's comments. Looking at the property right there is the house that goes. Again, Mulberry Street, what they're asking for, they're 20 foot back from Mulberry Street. Pretty reasonable. I think we looked at that and thought, yep, that's a gain on that aspect. Looking down South Street, this is the side right here where they're asking to go within 12 foot 5 inches from the right of way. And again, this corner right here is 14.5 and then it angles off as it goes further south towards the water's edge. Panning around, house on the opposite side. Looking back towards 13. Next shot will be down by the water's edge. Again, that goes home coming out to within 14.5 feet of this water's edge. You can see other homes we've got out there fairly close to the water, view not being an issue in this case because of the bridge. And again, there's the bridge in question right there. We'll freeze it right there. So again, looking at, they're requesting a 12.5-foot setback after talking with Moriarty and their engineer. They felt that nothing closer would be okay, not the better, the further the better, but that was the point.
You run it back so where we see the side down,
Yes.
yeah,
Let me,
the street there.
They were okay with the 12 foot.
no,
Yeah, right there.
Okay.
to say okay, Ron, I don't feel that, they said that they didn't feel they could ask more than the existing house was, but every foot counts. So we are properly advertised for the hearing as well as notified from the last hearing.
Steve Snyder on behalf of the petitioner. It all boils down to 2 feet, apparently. We tried to fit this structure on the lot so that we maintained the required 10-foot setback on the north property line. We figure that is the most significant next to the increase of parking space distance from Mulberry Street to the garage. We went from 9 feet to 20 feet. And now we're looking at reducing that if we have to move the house another 2 feet to the north. And it would reduce the setback on the north property line, the sideline, and it would reduce the setback from Mulberry Street probably by a foot. We tried to keep it at 20 feet because we know that's your preference. I still have a problem with any statement from whether it's Steve Moriarty or a contractor that they want us further away than anything, because they can't use any portion of this property, period. If we're 12.5 feet as opposed to 14.5 feet, and they cause damage to the property, they're going to have to compensate the owner for that damage, whether it's at 12.5 feet or 14.5 feet. I suppose you could visualize the situation where they're swinging the crane around and wiping out the pine tree or whatever, and hitting the house where they wouldn't have hit it if it was 14 feet away. But that's just pure speculation. We think we've done a very good job of placing this house on the lot to enhance the setbacks that are the most important, Mulberry Street and the north line. South Street is certainly the lesser of the 2 traveled streets, but it doesn't create any issues because we don't have any access off South Street. Unlike the property on the other side of South Street, which literally backs out from a 0-foot setback. We've maintained that space. If there was some concern over construction of a bridge, it should have been directed towards the house to the south, which has no setback from the street. The second point is, how much in advance do we have to plan? Because when you look at that bridge, it's a relatively new structure, and Steve agreed with me on that we're not looking at replacing it at any time in the near future. But what we are looking at is accommodating this lot, which is very shallow, with a reasonable setback from the water, a significantly increased setback from Mulberry Street, and maintaining that 10-foot sideline setback that you like to see. We have over 100 feet of frontage on Mulberry Street, so we are at that required 10-foot setback. Now, can it all be moved to the north 2 feet? It probably could, but we think that reduces the advantage we've created with the current house placement, getting us that 20 feet to Mulberry and maintaining the 10 feet from the north property line at no significant exposure to anyone putting in a new bridge. 2 feet simply isn't going to make any difference if there's going to be some damage to whatever house is on that street. We just think that the best plan maintains the Mulberry Street setback at 20, the north setback at 10 feet, and allows the house to be 12.5 feet from the north right-of-way of South Street, still far away from the bridge itself, and in an area where technically the county has no authority to go on or do anything over if they're putting in a new bridge 30 years from now.
Only comment I'll make there is practical difficulty, and we do have setbacks for a reason. And the county highway department saying 14 because they didn't feel that they could request further from their standpoint. We still have, what's the practical difficulty? It does have to go so close on such a large lot. Honestly, the other discussion was, yeah, if they could ask for 25, they would have. So.
Well, from the standpoint of a large lot, it's 99 feet deep on one side and 100 feet deep on the other by 102.
Compared to the other lots in the area, Steve, is what I'm using.
Okay.
So, I mean, this is one of the larger lots in the area.
The lot directly across the channel is twice this size, but that's irrelevant. We've got 100 feet of depth. We're trying to utilize that on a valuable piece of property, maintain property values in the area by enhancing them. And this isn't an unusual setback request when you have a water setback on one side and right-of-way setbacks on two sides, trying to maximize the benefit of a waterfront lot.
Excuse me.
Questions? Okay, thank you, Steve.
Mhm.
Anyone in support? Anyone in opposition?
Nothing. We did reach out to the town, but no comment.
Okay, discussion.
Well, I think that everybody understanding, both the county and the homeowner, construction of the bridge and the damages, fall back on the county.
Ron, you're going to know more about that than I will because you've been through there.
They're going to pound.
That's
And
the
that's
issue.
what's going to cause the damage,
Yes.
cracking of plaster and stuff in that house. So I make a motion.
I'll second it. Discussion? Well, I guess, Ron, what we're saying, and you were saying, 2 feet isn't going to make a difference on whether that plaster cracks or not.
No, right. It's gone.
So, yeah,
It's gonna,
yeah,
that ground is gonna move.
yeah. So, okay, we have a motion seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Matt.
All right. Next case we can take up is variance 2025-117 for Harvey Hayes. And this petition which permit allowing, is Hayes here? Okay, I'd say bump them to the end and we'll come back around to it. With that, then we can jump and let me get past Hayes. Okay, with that, then we can pick up with variance 2025-122 for Donald and Sheila Clausen. And this is a petition which would permit allowing a portion of the roof and walls to be reconstructed on the north property line at 2 feet. Same footprint as before. Property is located on the west side of EMS D5 lane and 138 feet south of County Road 1000 North in Van Buren Township. Right there's the property in question. And that is the product you see. Well, that's where the request is being made on that north side. What they're proposing is to remove portions of that structure and rebuild closest point 2 foot from that north property line. Looking around the area, we're on the north side of Dewart Lake. 1000 would be right out there. Panning the area. Excuse me. Looking down towards the lake area right through there. Next shot's going to be on the side, just giving you a little perspective. Again, this is on the south side, lakeside. This side is not being proposed to be touched based off the site plan, or at least the description at this point. Last shot's going to be back. So again, from that property line right there, proposal is to rebuild at 2 foot from the property line. Minimum setback will be 5 foot. For the hearing, legal ad did properly appear in the newspaper and by affidavit. Surrounding owners were notified.
You're on, sir. Your name.
That's it.
Your name.
Oh, Donald Clausen,
Okay, thank you.
owner. Yeah, just rebuilding the roof and putting it right back where it was. I mean, I'm not changing the footprint.
Are you
We're-
tearing the walls down?
The backside there, yes,
That's the
taken.
only part being touched, the walls. The rest of the walls will remain not being removed, not being raised.
Correct.
Okay. Do you know where the property line is exactly?
Well, yes, because by that pole, there is a marker
Okay.
and I wheeled it off the 40-foot
Okay.
width of that.
And structurally, that can hold new construction.
Well, we'll find out.
No, that's not what we want to hear.
Yeah, when I get into it.
That's the concern. Just looking at it, it looked pretty rough.
Big cracks in the foundation.
So you're doing this work yourself? Is that
Yes,
that's the deal?
yeah.
You've had experience with construction in the past? I mean, you know
Yeah.
what it takes.
I'm an electrician by trade. And
Okay.
If it's coming down, that's the time, that's what concerns me a little bit.
Yeah.
That we'll get,
He's not taking the sidewalls, though, just the roof.
he doesn't know at this point, Ron. He's hoping not to, is what the
Yeah.
comment was.
I would not want to rebuild on something that's not stable either. So if it changes, then
Okay, so
yeah,
Because you did mention the walls would be reconstructed.
yeah, because those are just post wall. Then the back side is basically logs, upright with concrete between them. The
That's
front is 2x4, where the green, that's been rebuilt.
from about this part
Yeah.
back, it is just log. It's not structure. I mean, it's structure.
Which
but-
I'm going to remove. And
so we are tearing some of it,
Yes.
a good chunk of it down.
we don't know if it's all coming down.
I won't be surprised if it doesn't.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
But the footprint will not change.
the footprint will not change.
Okay, any other questions? All right, okay, thank you. Anyone in support? Anyone in opposition?
Nothing on file.
Is there such a thing as approving it with the understanding that it doesn't all come down, and if it does, then it has to go back?
You can make that a condition that if, we'll say that back quarter or back half could be removed, but if the rest of it has to be removed, then it's 5 foot. If you want to do that. And
I don't think.
I'll make that motion.
We have-
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and seconded to allow it if the entire structure doesn't have to come down.
Right.
If it comes down, then it has to go to 5.
gets into it and realizes the rest of it's not going to make it.
Okay. So any further discussion on that? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, make sure we understand.
Did you hear what they did? Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay, so that log section back, they'll allow you to remove that, rebuild it. If you get into the front portion of the house and realize it's not structurally stable, cannot use it, then you're going to need to bump it over to 5 foot. So I guess what my best advice is, don't get too deep into it until you know what you got.
I would have to move the whole foundation back 3 foot. If I wanted to rebuild.
Closest point, 3 foot. So we measure to your drip line. So right now you're asking 2 foot, sorry, Amy, 2 foot to the overhang. So you'd have to go back at least to meet the 5 if the whole thing has to come down. Yes. Okay,
Called and asked when the meeting was, that I said today.
okay, we'll deal with them when we get here. Okay. Okay, I'll go ahead and read the next 2 off because they're asking, well, one isn't needed and one they're going to be coming back with. First one is 2025-126 for Weingand and 2027 for Weingand. First one, through preparing for the hearing, we recognized and realized that there may have been some issues when the house was originally built. After having confirmation through the surveyor, they're going to actually be coming back to address the issue with the house and with their additions all in one shot. So that is being withdrawn at this point.
Right.
And then 127 was asking for a second residence. And again, doing our research, looks like they actually already had a hearing for a second residence on this property back in the 90s. So kind of a moot point. We've approved already. They're going to be rebuilding that structure, but we've already approved that use. So 2 residences on one property is a permitted use as originally approved back in the 90s hearing.
With
that. With the covenant. Yeah, that,
Make sure that's clear.
yep,
to the
that was
public.
clear and back in the 90s. So we don't have to necessarily go through the motions with it.
Yeah, we can withdraw both of them. I've already refiled.
Yep.
Since it appears the original house when it was built in the 90s didn't meet the approval that was approved by the BZA because they didn't properly calculate overhangs and gutters. So we're coming back with the whole house, which will include what we want to do, which is squaring off a couple of corners and adding a second story.
Short way of saying it, they're both dropped.
Okay.
All right.
So yeah,
Yes.
would you just, for the public?
Yes.
Clarify 2 residences.
Yep.
And how we deal with that.
Yeah. So typically what they're having, the second request was to allow for a second residence on the property. Under the zoning ordinance, 1 residence is permitted per tract of ground. Around the lakes, a lot of times we have a second residence or a carriage house that is used for overflow family only. This property is no different than those. And it actually had back in 93, that exact hearing. They asked to allow for a second residence. Board, similar to what we've seen in this board, granted it with a condition that is only for family and overflow, not a rental, not increasing the density, just for those times that they need extra living space or kicking the kids out, whatever the case may be. But That was approved with a deed requirement. That's been done. So that makes that hearing not needed because we'd be asking for the exact same thing that's already been acted on. Okay. With that, then we can move on to McDonough. Well, once I get past all the video. Okay. Next hearing we have is variance 2025-129 for Sheila McDonald. This petition for a variance which for allowing a residence addition to remain 7 foot 10 inches from the property line. Property is located on the west side of East Shore Drive and 644 feet north of Cornelius Road in Turkey Creek Township. This property should look familiar. That's actually an old video right there. Back in November of 2024, we had a hearing on this property. This is 2 lots that were built on with that construction, had a permit at the time by the previous owner. They came in wanting to split the properties. At that time, we had extensive hearing, said no, could not split the property. Those hearings were denied. And it was discussed, permit was closed, no open permit on it. Anything further they would want to do, take new permits and go through the process with that. So that's what we had originally. That's just showing the property lines through there. Jumping ahead, we then got a complaint, and this is the side that was 7 foot. There's how it looks today. Petitioners have done extensive work without permits, and through that, created a bump out and air conditioning unit placement on the north side that ends up to be 7 foot 10 inches. This one requires 10 foot, which was discussed at that original hearing that we had that was denied, that 10-foot setbacks, because that was part of what they were requesting. Here, right there, that was built, again, without permit, closer than 10 foot to the side property line without permits. I can't explain it. We had a pretty good hearing, I thought, and discussed it very clear. Again, all done without permits, which unfortunately we would have caught if they were applied for at that time as well. Looking around, and I'll freeze it on that side right there. Again, minimum setback should be 10. Existing house per survey was sitting at 10. Anything closer was out of compliance. For this hearing, legal ad did properly appear in the newspaper and by affidavit. Surrounding owners were notified.
Hi, I'm Sheila McDonald, owner of the property. We bought this property, like Matt said, last year, and we're denied about adding on or another structure on the other side and splitting it off into 2 lots. So we tried to make lemonade out of lemons and fix up this property. We were told that there was an open permit on
Who told you that?
property. When I called in,
No way. It was closed and out at the time of the hearing even.
Okay.
And we talked about that at the hearing.
okay, well, potentially that was misunderstood.
Okay.
So we were not trying to operate without a permit. We're in opposition to what was told. But when we called, they said that it needed to be 5 feet from the property line. So that's what I was operating under.
Wow.
I knew that that was, it just sounded reasonable to me. So we were just seeking to add on and add a window on that side of the home.
That's more than a window. That's a whole nook.
Sure. But to get that 4 feet with the window facing the lake. So we're, with the overhang, we're 7 feet 10. Without the overhang, we're 8 foot 10. If I were trying to, really mess things up, I would have built a lot closer to the property line, but I wasn't. I was trying to just simply add on an amount to get a window in.
Because the other thing too with the permit, even if it was still open, our permits were issued exactly as they're applied for. None of that was on the original permit.
Sure.
I mean, the original permit was a box.
Okay.
So that's why I don't see any of our people saying that.
We're just simply looking to improve the property and make it as nice as possible for our neighbors. We've done a lot of things to try to make it better from the condition that it was in.
Who's doing the work for you?
we're having contracted out like several different
Who's the
trees.
contractor?
Myself.
You're acting as your own general.
Yes.
Because that was the original permit. Especially after, were you present at the hearings?
Yes.
And this one did come in as a complaint, and I can understand why. Especially after the first hearing that felt kind of like, what happened?
I understood more that we weren't to split it off and build on the other side of the property. I didn't understand that this,
Well, the reduced
This works.
setbacks and all that was, yeah, that was discussed as well. And there was even a comment made about an air conditioning unit if it was split.
What's it look like on the other side as far as access?
Yeah, the other side, so that's, oh, point at the right screen, Matt. The other side is where they did have extensive room to do, oh, hold on. Sorry. Back up one more. There's the whole opening, because that's all yard. There's 40 foot on that side. And there are some sliding doors, if you remember from that hearing, yeah. Because that was one of the questions that was raised during that original hearing as well. Again, pretty substantial.
yes, I understand that there's a good bit on the other side. And so if I thought that I were going to build more than what was allowed, I would have gone to the other side. But I thought I was working within the boundaries of what was allowed.
You keep saying allowed, but we denied everything. So nothing was allowed.
I meant of the
The-
10 feet to the property line.
Yeah, and that's,
I thought I was
Kind of
working
the crux of
within
the hearing.
needing to be 5 feet.
But it was
And-
very,
and the structure's still under construction, from what I could tell.
Yeah, still gonna finish it, but
we was very clear in that last hearing about the 10 feet.
I guess I was more focused on the main reason why I was here about being able to split it off on the other side, that I must have missed this side.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you. Be seated. Anyone in support? Anyone in opposition?
We do have one letter from a neighbor.
There's some right here.
Okay, that's from a Brandt right there.
Come forward, please, and if you want to speak. Yeah.
Your name?
Mike Conrad.
Thank you, Mike.
I'm the neighbor to the north there.
With the boat.
And yeah, my understanding was the first request to split off the 40 foot on the other side of the home and reduce the setbacks to 5 feet was denied. And it just appeared that they went along without a permit and started, I do real estate, so I've been to these meetings. I've seen requests to build onto a house that's into a setback. And it does affect our property to the north there with how close they came to us. If the setback's 10 feet, they already had, if they didn't have the hearing in November and maybe they really didn't know what the setbacks were, I could understand. But to go ahead and just build what you want to build on your property, I think is very inconsiderate of your neighbors. It's changed a lot. This house has been under construction for 2.5 years now. We're ready for it to be done. We appreciate them wanting to beautify the neighborhood, increase the property values. But that's definitely encroaching on our property with how they have it standing right now.
And your name again was?
Mike Conrad.
Any questions for Mr. Conrad? Okay, thank you. So there's another
Yes,
person that objected.
correct.
Okay. So there, what are the remedies here?
So you have, I mean, you can either approve it to remain as is or deny it. They'd have to modify the structure as well as the AC unit, move it, cut it back to 10 foot, whatever that, however much that ends up taking. And based off the survey, it looks like the old existing house, where's my survey here? So the existing house is sitting at 12.8 to the, I'm assuming foundation. So they'd have 2 foot that they could come, a foot overhang and then maybe another foot. So most likely remove that structure and renovate it
And move the air
and
conditioner.
move the air conditioner, correct?
Well, we do have property owner. I assume this letter is an adjacent
Correct.
property owner. So we have two, either side are both objecting. Is that correct?
Actually, this one as well as the next one down was
Okay.
rejecting. And I think they may have also been at the hearing, the original hearing.
Okay. We have a motion, or how do you
I
want to?
make a motion that they go back to the original 10 foot. So they'll have to remove the bump out and the air conditioner.
Modify the structure back to 10 foot.
That's right.
I'll second it.
Motion to basically deny and go back to what it should be. Seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Okay.
It's denied.
And they still will need to get a permit for the work that's taking place as well as any future work.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead. Take some time to do your findings on that one. And if we did have some findings you could recommend also in the staff comments if you feel those are appropriate. Cheryl, you don't see Hayes, do you? Hayes? Okay, I didn't see him either. Okay.
Go ahead, Matt.
All right, next variance we can hear is variance 2025-130 for Connie Rotocap. And this petition for variance which permit allowing a second residence on a tract. Property is located on the west side of EMS R3 lane and 200 feet north of Adams Road in Washington Township. Right there's the property in question. We are on the south side of Ridinger Lake, just off of the channel that comes off the south side. Petitioner has a house there and has moved a shed on, and the shed is being used as living quarters for family members. This came in originally with the shed. As we discussed it a little further, found out they were using it as a residential quarters as well. Looking around the area within Lake Park Manor on Ridinger. Shed's actually down in that corner down there. You can't see it real well. Shots coming up will show it a little bit better. Let's just give me perspective of the house, the road going back into the subdivision right there. Next shot, we're trying to zoom in and you can see the shed down kind of in that corner. Shed is closer. They are going to move the shed, but before moving it, they wanted to see if this petition was granted to begin with. They did also talk to the health department because currently there are no facilities in the shed. They're using the home facilities for it. So working with the health department basically said, we'll give you a year and then need to look at it. But that's what brought us up to this point now. So for this hearing, legal ad did properly appear in the newspaper and by affidavit, surrounding owners were notified.
Connie Roadcap.
Can you give us some background?
I'm a widowed woman and I have 4 children. That's my youngest son and his wife that live in the shed. Their children all live in my house. They all sleep there, eat there. They're there. My son and his wife use the bathroom, showers and stuff in my house. I have a big enough septic system where it can cover everybody. They sleep. Yes, they sleep down there. But that's, I don't have any. I was just trying to help him out till you could find a place.
Okay. Yeah. Have you talked with the health department?
Yes,
Okay.
they came out and the guy that came out, I took him down to the shed. And all he did was take a picture of the smoke detector and left. But he said, he didn't see any problems since everybody was using my house, the facilities, the water, the septic and all that.
Where did the year come?
That's from their waiver letter. So I think recognizing the case after looking at it, trying to be as compassionate as possible, but still keeping in mind this is not really something to open the door for.
Yeah.
Trying to give them time to find alternatives.
He was renting a place and he had the option to buy, but he couldn't get financing. And that was the only way I knew how to help, was just letting him stay there till they've been constantly looking. So
Any questions, Mr. Ocamp?
Connie, I know you had made a comment, if they leave the property, the shed's going with them?
yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's theirs. They
Okay.
bought it.
Okay. No questions? Okay. Thank you. You may be seated. Anyone in support? Anyone in opposition? Come forward, please.
Hello, my name's Eric Waters. Here's a following is a list of the reasons why we choose to oppose. Yeah.
Excuse me, where do you live?
I live on 88 EMS on the lane.
So you're
Yep.
you're close. Okay. Okay.
Okay. They're applying for a temporary second residence, but have occupied different sheds for 2+ years. They park multiple vehicles on the road, which takes the portion of our road down to 1 lane, creating safety issues with traffic and visibility. Road cannot be maintained due to vehicles always blocking. Road is deteriorating. Shrubs are overgrown, protruding into the roadway, adding to visibility issues. Concerns about septic capacity when there's about 14 people living there. And then concerns about safety of the electronic connections being ran to sheds being occupied. concerns of impact value on home and the ability to appeal to a buyer. So I feel like, the community has been patient. It's been 2 years, and that's
Thank you.
not the best public speaker.
You did fine, did fine.
Anybody else? I saw other, no, you have to come forward,
I,
please.
I think he's saying they're speaking for all the neighbors is what he was
He
indicating.
can
Yeah.
say that.
My name's Russell Brown. I own the property directly across from Connie, plus the home on the other side there, catty corner from her. And he voiced we sat down and voiced all the concerns to have him represent us. So,
Okay.
pretty
he's
much all the
for the
same
neighbors.
concerns and issues that are concerning for the neighborhood. So,
Okay.
okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, discussion. Yeah. Obviously, this is not something we can condone.
Yeah.
So we can give them a little time to get this resolved.
And I think that was the health department's thoughts too.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, they said a year. I don't know. Is that too much or?
I'd say by the first of the year. I mean,
6 months or?
yeah, we've basically shot 6 months out of this
Yeah.
year already.
Yeah, if it's been going on for 2 years, that's. So. 6 months.
We can give them 6 months and then enforce it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you're talking about denying, but deferring enforcement for 6 months.
Okay, good point. So I'll make that motion that we deny it, but delay enforcement for 6 months to give them time to get this out of there. So,
Get the shed off and, if
yeah,
they're living in the house, they're living in the house. We don't have any control there,
Yeah.
but yeah.
health department concerns and neighborhood concerns. That's my motion. Second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's,
Connie, did you hear what they're
They're denying the permit, but they have 6 months to get out.
correct? And so the shed and them, they, if they want to, if they can move in the house, we don't control that. But if they're going to be wanting to, the shed and them have to go out of the shed. So,
January 1.
yep, January 1.
So permit.
I'd say, what's the point if they're going to,
yeah,
as long as it's off in 6 months, they're deferring enforcement for that long. So
I get the permit, but it's after that.
we're not issuing a
it's
permit. So because they're just not going to pursue the violation for that 6 month period, they've
done.
instructed us to defer the,
Permit, January 1.
it goes, it's gone and violations taken care of, the shed's removed.
Can I go?
Yes.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, good. Okay.
We're ready.
All right, next one is variance 2025-134 for Robert Baker. And this petition, which would permit the change and alteration of a granted variance 2025-21 by allowing the pergola to remain 6 foot 9 inches from the water's edge and 4 foot 8 inches from the south property line, when the BZA granted 8 foot from the water's edge and 5 foot from the side. Property is located on the east side of Stroh's Drive, and 232 feet north of Walnut Drive in Turkey Creek Township. Right there's the property in question. Back in January, we had a hearing, and at that time they were looking at building the pergola out over existing decking and rebuild some of the decking. At that point, it was going to be 8 foot from the water's edge. Our office received a complaint that they may be building more than the permit and hearing allowed, and went out and looked at it. Mr. Copeland's phone's going off. We'll give him a minute. With that, we did measure it, and it was closer than the hearing and permit allowed. And that ended up being at 6'9" as well as 4'8" from the sideline. Again, right there's the structure in question. Looking at the structure, looking around, that's the main road out on Stroh's. And I'm going to say that's the biggest reason it was approved right there. That boathouse had pretty well set the standard. Back around. Next shot's just going to be down the sideline. Give me the perspective again. Right there. Minimum setback would be 5 foot. It ends up being 4'8" from the sideline. For this hearing, legal, I did properly appear in the newspaper, and by affidavit, surrounding owners were notified.
I'm Nate Yoder, representing Bob and Donna Baker. Originally, when we had this, those posts were going to be up against the house. And when I started digging, the footer come out a foot, just 4 inches below the ground level. Didn't realize that. So I set my posts out a foot away from the house. And it runs at an angle. I never once questioned it because it was actually 8'7". It was further away than, I never even questioned that was too close to the water's edge. When Matt showed up, it wasn't even, I was like, what's going on? And so we measured it. And yeah, and it was being that thing pushed out, and it's only the one post on the north end. It's the only post that's even went 7 inches past the variance, that far post. So that when we decided we're going to refile the variance, I talked with Matt about it. So now I'm going to adjust and see if we can get a little 8-inch overhang on that roof as well, and just match the overhang on the side of the house underneath that. It's 6 foot to the foundation, but from the roof line is where the request is coming in on the side.
Everything as you understand it, that's.
Yeah. And they were there when we measured, so we dropped the tape together and
yep.
Yeah. And, I
never in question it. Like I said, we went over and we looked, and I made the joke, I guess, and said, well, if you go to the bottom of the seawall, it's actually within specs. It's that close, but the seawall is at an angle, and that's the water's edge. So. Yeah.
And the modification on the drip line and so forth, is that gonna?
That's on this side right here. Let me back it up. Oh, come on.
Right there.
Yeah. Back, it's gonna show that right there. So originally it was gonna be cut back.
It was gonna be flush cut, but it's left at that.
And right there is in line with the current gutter.
Yes.
Okay.
It's actually back from the current gutter.
Okay. That's what I couldn't remember.
Okay, any other questions? Mr. Yoder? Okay, thank you, sir. Anyone in support? Come forward, please.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Andy Downton. I have 2 homes just to the south of this property. So I don't live next door, but then I have the 2 homes just to the south. Okay. the Bakers had purchased this home, I don't know, about 7, 8 years ago, and they've done nothing but improve the property. Talking to most of our other neighbors as we all grill together, everybody is in a agreement that this is in no way, shape, or form going to impair any sort of visual or view from the lake looking to the north. So I'm totally in improvement of this structure, and it's going to do nothing but improve our property value in our neighborhood.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else in support? Anyone in opposition? This was a complaint, so somebody was,
Yeah, it came in as a complaint, so let me see what the name, because this was not one we would have found.
So the question was, who complained? And we'd like to know on what angle he was looking and where it was at and why he was over there, I guess, measuring stuff, if that's what the case was, so.
yeah, that's what we're trying to get at
So
too.
that's where,
Yeah.
so all the.
I'll have to check with our officer, but I did.
Okay, thank you.
And it could have been someone who saw new construction
Yeah.
and wanted us to check it as well, so.
Since there was Jones representing the neighbors,
Yeah.
they're all for it. I moved it.
We have a motion to approve it as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
They will still need to get a new permit, and there is a $125 permit fee associated to that. Welcome.
Thank you.
So they ended up bumping it. They continued it based off our conversation for the survey and the construction work. If you want to talk to them at the end, you're more than happy.
Okay.
But ultimately, they continued to July.
Okay, awesome.
Yep. Okay. Bauer.
Okay.
All right. Next one we have is variance 2025-138 for Tange Thompson, and this is a petition for variance which permit allowing a non-conforming carport. Someone here for Thompson? All right. Non-conforming carport to remain as constructed 5 feet from the platted right-of-way. The property is located on the north side of C-17 lane and 53 feet north of C-17A lane in Plain Township. Right, well, let me back it up there. Right there is the structure, how it looked prior to construction. We did have a hearing on this back in 23. At that time, they wanted to add on to the garage, get a little bit closer to the right-of-way, make some other altercations to it. That ultimately was denied, and they moved forward with a different project. That's how it was. Next shot's going to be current. That's how it looks there. Obviously, they've raised the roof. In doing so, they also took the carport all the way down, which triggered a need for a permit as well as the hearing. They could, if they just put the new roof pitch on it and no increased cubic content, didn't raise the sidewalls at all, that would have been fine. It was the removal of the carport section that triggered it for a permit and setback relief. For this hearing, legal ad did properly appear in the newspaper and by affidavit surrounding owners notified.
I'm Elmer Miller. We're the builder that did it. We messed up. We didn't get a permit to raise the roof like we should have. Yeah, we messed up. We didn't do it, and we know we did wrong. And when we took that roof off to raise it up, those posts were rotten on the side. So at that point in time, we were like, what do we do except replace it? So that's why we replaced those side posts. Basically, I mean, it's exactly where it was. I mean, it's exactly the same as it was. It's just it's taller and it looks a lot nicer. It's not near as much of an eyesore as it used to be.
Did you not know you had to get a permit?
Yes, we did. I said, we messed up. We didn't. I mean, it was our fault.
Okay.
And Tangi didn't have nothing to do with it. That was our fault. I take that on us. We messed up.
Just, did you think about stopping and coming in?
For
Just see what needed to be done?
For a permit?
Permit?
we actually had called in and we
Okay.
had asked, and they said, well, if you just raise the roof, we just need to get a permit.
Right, but when you realized about the poles, did that trigger?
I wasn't there that day.
Okay.
So I wasn't there. The guy said that those are rotten, so they just changed them. I wasn't even involved in the discussion.
And when you say guys, part of your crew?
Our crew, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Any questions? No. Okay, thank you.
He's owning up to his mistake.
Yeah, that's good. It's refreshing. Anybody in support? Anybody in opposition?
Nothing on file.
I move that we approve it with him paying for the
Has to get the after effect permit.
Okay, have a motion. Is there a
I'll
second?
second.
Have a motion to approve with the understanding you have to pay the permit. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved.
Okay, so just need to pull the new permit.
Thanks, guys.
We appreciate your honesty, but also we hope you, going forward, we don't have to talk about you, this kind of stuff with you again.
And have a good discussion with your crew that something like that they may want to bump you because.
Because here's the deal. In cases like this, depending on track record, we may get into a settlement discussion where it would cost you substantially
I
more.
want to stay away from that. I want to do
Good.
it right.
Okay, so we're giving you a break today, okay? Because of your honesty. All right. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me. I'll have to try that honesty with Marcia, see if that.
It doesn't work.
I think it goes the other direction, Kevin. It was only a half dozen donuts.
Wrong file.
All right, next variance we can take up is 2025-139 for James Bowman. And this petition for variance which permit allowing existing accessory building to remain 0 feet from the north sideline and 15 feet from the water's edge. Property is located on the east side of B3 Lane and 85 feet west of B3AR Lane in Tippecanoe Township. Right there's property in question. Should look fairly familiar. We acted on a porch not too long ago. Porch, you can just barely see the corner there. Allowed the porch to be enclosed at 19, I believe it was. They're back with the shed. The shed was placed closer than minimum setbacks. Should be 5 feet from the sideline, 35 foot from the water's edge. Based off of the petition today, we are at 0 and 15. Looking around the area, just the other homes, Barbie Road out right there, main road out there. Circling back around the neighbor's property, the 0 foot side right there, and probably kayaks crossing the line, but that's not a structure, so we don't care. Background. Next shot's just going to be a little different perspective from the water's edge, give you an idea of where it sits in relationship to the water. No, it isn't. I lied. I cut that video. So right there, as it sits. For this hearing, legal ad did properly appear in the newspaper and by affidavit surrounding owners were notified.
Steve Snyder on behalf of the petitioner. Matt's correct. We were here last month. You approved the enclosure of the porch. And then, being very honest, I agreed with Matt that the application was in error because I had the shed 0 feet from the right of way. And
I was even
actually,
gonna bring it up.
there's no right of way there. It's just the neighbor's property line. So we're back asking to leave the shed where it is. Where it's placed, it provides for adequate parking on the property. I went back to the neighbor again because he approved the porch and said, you know, do you have any problem with this shed? And he says, no, the shed looks great. And I attached a letter from him that I just got yesterday that he has no problem with the shed. It's been there. He likes it. And he didn't have any problem with it, including no problem if my client has to go on the other property to maintain it. So we're just asking to leave it the way it is. If we have to move it to the south and further away from the water, we're going to start losing parking spaces. And as you can see on a lot this size on a dead end road, we don't want to lose any parking spaces. So we just want to leave the shed where it is. The only two people who are affected are my client and the neighbor likes the shed.
Okay, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone in support? Anyone in opposition?
Nothing on file.
What's your pleasure? We have a motion to approve. Is there? Okay. We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? It's approved.
Dishonesty might be contagious.
I know.
We could only hope.
Yeah.
We could just get that on national level, we'd be all set.
No kidding.
Go ahead, man.
All right. Next case we have is exception 2025-51 for Tim Graber. And this petition for exception for the purpose of allowing construction of an oversized accessory building, 1,644 square foot, where maximum size allowed by ordinance is 864 square foot in a residential district. Property is located on the north side of South Road and 0 feet west of Quiet Harbor Drive in Turkey Creek Township. Right there's petitioner's property in question. We're in Leland Edition out on Wawasee, and that is petitioner's home site. What they're proposing to do right in that area, that grassed area there, is construct a new detached accessory building. You'll see the site plan and elevation drawings they've provided. That will be 1,644 square foot in size. Again, based off of property size in a residential district, the largest building they'd be allowed to be 864 square foot. Panning around the area, looking to the north, Quiet Harbor goes out and around, services the other homes out there. Back around. Next shot's just going to be a little different angle for you. It was a nice day. All right. There. I just cut too much video. Okay. For this hearing, legal ad properly appeared in the newspaper and by affidavit. Surrounding owners were notified. We'll freeze it, right?
Carl Graber with Pacemaker Buildings, here's agent for Tim Graber. He wasn't able to attend this morning because of work issues, but essentially what they're wanting to do, they're selling their off lake property and they're moving to the lake full time. So they're trying to create some space like everybody is for putting their things in. The lot, it's a nice sized lot where it's going to sit. It's not really hampering anybody's view of the lake. They've got pretty mature trees around the perimeter and those all will stay in place. This will kind of settle up to the house nicely and the drive will access the building and the house real well. The proportions seem a little bit skewed. The property was within 300 square foot of the 25,000 square foot to allow a 1,200 foot accessory. And this property dimensions are all to the right of way. They're not out to the middle of the road. So when you look at the lot, it feels like a pretty nice sized lot. And then on the building itself, 384 square foot of that square footage is actually porch, like a gable cedar porch and a side porch to complement what's on the house. So they're really going out of their way to try to make it look like it belongs with the house and fit the setting. We're doing the same color scheme, the charcoal and black, and then we're doing nice windows in the overhead. So it's not near the monstrosity that it sounds like it would be as far as the overall dimensions. It's only 17 foot to the very peak, and the character of it will really complement the house. There is another existing building just west of their lots, like a 40 by 48 galvanized eyesore that I think all the neighbors would like to buy and tear down, but it's nothing like what they've lived with currently in that neighborhood. So
That's actually a residence.
is it? Okay.
Yeah, and that's due to a court case back in the 80s.
Yeah, I talked to
Yeah.
Tim and then another neighbor
Yeah.
there, Steve Beer, that both have talked that they've
Yeah.
tried to purchase that just so they
Yeah.
can clean up the neighborhood. But Tim said he's talked with all of his neighbors. Yeah, I don't know if there's any letters one way or the other, but he said he's talked to all his neighbors and none of them have had any, opposition to what he's proposed. He showed them drawings and stuff.
I thought I heard you say something about 1,200 square foot is allowed. That's not what my understanding is.
Their property size to what makes that determination.
Yeah.
So they're short by however
Like 200
many
or 300
square
square foot. So like,
from being allowed
Yeah.
1,200. But
So-
because,
like at a 15,000 square foot lot, they'd be allowed 1,200 and they're at
Close.
24,007
but no square.
at 25. So it's close to being that size, and the fact that those dimensions are actually to the actual lot, and not to the center of the road. When you look at the lot, it feels like a very large lot. We're not asking for any setback reductions or anything that in that manner. So
Okay, any questions?
Carl, do you know, do they have an active association?
I don't know that they do. I don't.
Okay.
Kind of doubt that they do, or that would have.
I wasn't sure.
Assume that would have been brought up. But yeah, a lot of those homes are not real. I mean, they're a little older, but they're.
Okay, thank you. Anyone in support? Anyone in opposition?
Nothing on file.
Well, kind of surprises me that there's no opposition.
Yeah.
I move to approve as presented.
Motion to approve is presented, second, and any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Approved. And the key, part of the key there is that residential appearance, as you mentioned, that you're aware of. So that's really important.
House, it's got cedar wrapped porch columns and truncated
Yeah.
porches. It'll look
Okay.
like it belongs right.
I'll go ahead and mention the next one. I don't even think they did their notices. The next one on the agenda was variance 2025-140 for Christopher Mader. They talked to the health department, couldn't get the septic to work out with their project, so they withdrew it. Mader, you may not even have him in your packet, Ron,
Oh, okay.
but we,
Was it?
Mader, Christopher Mader.
Oh, it's just a Snyder chair.
I
don't have to make 'em
sit
that
all
comfortable.
day. I don't need to sit up here.
Oh, well, stand then.
Yeah.
Think they'll put Snyder's cases all together.
We've tried that, and then he picks up other ones, and he's still here all day anyway, so.
It was a nice thought. It just didn't work.
All right, next case we can take is variance 2025-142 for Carlos Rico. And this petition which permit allowing a 14 by 16 shed to remain as placed without permits 0 foot from the south property line. Property is located on the west side of T26 lane and 355 feet northwest T26B lane in Plain Township. Right there's property in question. And this is actually the second owner. Original shed, the shed was placed on the property by the previous owner in 2006. Property sold. And at that time, there appears to be an encroachment agreement. So actually that shed right there sits half on Rico's property, half on the neighbor's property. Through an encroachment agreement that was provided, they thought everything was good. And we said, no, that It's great. That didn't take care of everything, however. So they are now asking to leave the shed as placed 0 foot from the common property line with that encroachment agreement. Next shot shows it a lot better. They're actually building a new house. See the chain link fence? That is the property line. They're building a new structure on the other side, so pretty well shows you where it is. Panning around the area, Rico's house right there, lake off to the back, new home, carriage house actually just refaced. And we'll freeze it right there. For this hearing, legal ad did properly appear in the newspaper and by affidavit. Surrounding owners were notified.
Steve Snyder on behalf of Carlos Rico. When Carlos built the house, or bought the house rather, he bought it from Jim and Berlin Hearn and was aware of the encroachment agreement, which was with Dolores Hearn, Steve's widow. It was put together in September of 2020 because I think that's probably about when the shed was built, but I'm not certain.
06.
06?
06.
Okay. So obviously it was to correct a problem that already exists. As stated in the encroachment agreement, the Hearns agreed that they had always agreed to allow that shed to encroach from the Jim Hearn property to the Steve Hearn property. So being somewhat associated with the legal profession, somebody drafted this agreement, doesn't say who, but I would guess some in the Hearn family drafted this agreement. Well, when Carlos bought it, he's thinking, okay, this is pretty good because it confirms what I thought, and it does show up in the title to his property. This agreement was recorded. The survey that I provided you shows what the situation is with the shed, and it's literally right on the property line, half on one side and half on the other. So with the encroachment agreement, we're asking to leave the shed. All you can grant is 0 feet from the south property line. We're asking for that to remain because the parties have already agreed. Dolores Hearn obviously sold their property and the new house has been constructed. If you look at the aerial photo, I had to give you the oblique because it's the only one that shows the new house. The shed is actually behind the carriage house, where from the main house on the south property, you couldn't even see the shed. Carlos said, you know, it's a great shed. It was there when I bought it and I want to keep it. So we just want to leave it right there as it was and as it was agreed to be done. It's not dangerous. Obviously, if you look at the values of these properties, the properties have enhanced in value significantly, even with the shed. And from a practical standpoint, we had 2 prior owners who agreed this was an okay thing to do. And now we just want to keep it that way.
Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone in support?
Here's your glasses, Steve.
Anyone in opposition? All right, what's your pleasure?
So move that we allow it. It's been this way. All neighbors agree.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, now discussion, and in your staff comments, you made reference of maybe this should be put on the deed. So is that, am I understanding that correctly, or?
The encroachment agreement leads to the same thing. Yes, I had made that comment. The encroachment agreement makes the same similar statements in it, that the shed's removed, is damaged more than 50%, anything of that nature, it has to be.
It takes care of it.
That wipes off the encroachment agreement. But I think making that clear is, you know, like, no, don't come back wanting to replace in the same spot.
So we don't need
This is for, I'd say go with that. That's okay. Yeah.
Go with what he presented.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, so you heard the motion, seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carried, it's approved.
Carlos, you got a nice place.
Yes.
He's done some work for me. And he barters. And
Oh, yeah.
he gives good deals for cash.
Now you know how much your Yours. Beast generator. Okay, the next case we have on the agenda is Michael McKay. This is a petition for exception for the purpose of allowing ag use, 4 chickens and no rooster in a residential district. Property is located on the north side of Bass Drive and 164 feet northeast of Scott Road in Seward Township. We are down on the south side in Oak Grove Beach. Petitioner did give us his affidavit today. It does not appear that notifications were done completely, however. He does have signatures from one of the owners, but we don't have all of them notified properly. If you do want to move forward with it, it should be with the condition that new notification is done. We did have remonstrance as well on this. This came in as a complaint. I guess my only comment there is if you're considering denying it at all, what's the point of redoing notification? So you may want to listen to it and then make a decision whether to continue it or not for additional comment.
Yeah.
So right there is the petitioner's property in question. And we are zoned residential Oak Grove Beach area. And looking around the property, you can see the homes in the surrounding area there. Back around. Right. There's one of the chickens. 2 chickens. So they are.
They're more pets than anything, really.
There are chickens.
They are.
Next shot, just a little different perspective, kind of showing you, looks like small. And last shot's going to be back down. There. Another chicken on that side. Actually looks like a rooster.
No.
No? Okay.
There are no roosters.
Okay.
I won't have one.
Okay. For the hearing, legal ad appeared. However, affidavit was not properly notified.
Well, if you,
Your name, please.
Michael McKay,
Thank you.
if you give me 30 more days, I'll send those out and I'll get them back. I got 4 chickens. I got a granddaughter that just her and I live there. And they're more, just a couple eggs we get, We don't sell them or nothing. It's just her and I. But if you give me a little time, I'll send these letters out. And right, I'm on Bass Drive. It's a gravel drive, and Scott Road's over here. In the middle, there's nothing. It's a grassy area, but you can't build anything on it or nothing. I have permission from my 2 direct neighbors, Roger White and Robert Bogart. But he's buying the house. Robert Bogart is buying the house on land contract, and I had no idea that I had to send for that, to the legal owner, I guess, but they don't have any problem with it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. May be seated. Anyone in opposition?
More.
Anyone in support? Okay, here we got somebody in support.
Got that. Go ahead.
Well, my name is Donna Wright, and I live on the other side, and I don't have a problem with it. And I would like for him to have more opportunity to reach out and get it as far as people to sign the paper. But that's why I'm here. And I just appreciate being able to see how everything operates, because sometimes it turns out it's from a neighborly disagreement. So, and I've been here before because of a neighborly disagreement. So, Yeah, that's all I'm here for, is for Mike to have the opportunity to get it resolved in a good way.
All right, thank you. Anyone else want to speak? Okay, discussion.
One thing I'm sorry, Ron. One thing I will note, and we do this with all our chicken requests, is we checked for CAFOs in the surrounding area, because that is something we've looked at, and there are a couple CAFOs, confined feeding operations, within that 2-mile buffer. And again, when I'm talking about that 2-mile buffer, we're going back to the State Department of Health has established protocols for disease and affecting confined feeding operations. So if a disease is found within a 2-mile radius, whether it's a private hobby flock or a commercial flock, whatever it may be, that starts tracking back and can affect those larger operations. Indiana's just gone through that. We're clean now, it sounds like, but that's always a concern that we've heard repeatedly from our poultry guys through the county, especially when it is free range, because how that disease is transmitted, and any wild bird, it transmits. And yeah,
this is an issue that's bigger than all of us because of bird flu. And our poultry producers are very concerned about this, and I think they're even going to have a meeting, right, to discuss this further. And
yeah, we've been reached out to, and they've requested to sit down with us to maybe look at going ahead after going through this last bout of what they've had to deal with.
On the national news in the last week, there was a story about a poultry production facility that bird flu got in, and they had big front loaders full of dead chickens, dumping them in a huge semi trailer. And it wiped that whole operation out as far as the chickens. So this is very serious kinds of things. And we can't start making exceptions for this because of the economic impact this could have on our county and, these poultry producers. So
yeah,
I'm going to move, we deny it.
I will second that, because the mallard ducks are carriers of it, and being adjacent to the lake, the exposure to his 4 chickens is very great.
Greater than some other locations
Yeah.
we've looked at.
And I understand they are pets, but I want to get a cat.
Any other comments? Any discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Denied, and let's give him some time.
Yeah, I was just going to ask. Would you 60 days, 90 days, somewhere in there?
60 days.
60 days. Okay.
Everybody okay with 60 days?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. 60 days to remove the chickens from the property, and
Okay.
that'll resolve the violation.
You want to take this back?
Nope, that stays with our file.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All it takes is one chicken.
Yeah.
That's right. If we let that go, we'll be
Yeah.
chickens everywhere.
Yeah. That's why I got to get this meeting and get this out to the public.
It'll be good. All right, next variance we can hear is variance 2025-143 for Stuart Cluffer. And this is a petition for a variance which permit the placement of a generator unit 7 foot 7 inches from the south property line and 14 foot 9 1/8 inch from the water's edge. Property is located on the north side of Bayshore Drive and 5,000 feet north of Hatchery Road in Turkey Creek Township. We're out on Bayshore Beach Edition, and this is may look familiar. Back in 2023, we had hearings for a new home on the site. New home is well under construction, and at that time, granted variances around it all the way 10 foot, 10 foot, 25 on the north side, 25 foot on the northeast side. Where we're looking at is actually on the south side, and first shot's just showing the general area where we're at. This road dead ends at this property. So you're looking down Bayshore, homes way down the edge. Busy day for construction out there. I had to walk a little bit to get the video, which does kind of can work against the petitioner if I have to walk a ways. Oh, no. Okay, so now we're on the south side. You can see the cords coming out. This boat well, I'll freeze it right there for a minute. That boat well you can see on the plans actually encroaches into the petitioner's property. We knew that at the original hearing. The setback is 10 foot from the property line, which is actually about 2 foot into the water's edge. There's a concrete seawall through there. That's where the property line is. Older boat well, been there longer than we have. And that was the existing. 7 foot is to the property line, not the boat well. Looking down the shoreline, again, request is 7 foot 7 inches from the south side, 14 water's edge. We granted 10 on that side, 14 to the generator. Panning around, giving an idea where we're at on the house. And coming back around to the proposed location of the generator. Right there, roughly. For this hearing, legal ad did properly appear in the newspaper and by affidavit surrounding owners were notified.
I'm Larry Copeland, representing Copeland Construction. We're the ones that's building this home. And we were not involved originally with the requested setbacks. That was done prior to their choosing a builder. And the only thing they had overlooked was locating this unit in case of the loss of power. And basically where you see that glass line sticking up, it's just straight forward in front of it. It's just beyond that windows there that's in the garage. And the nice thing about it is that you've got that little boat slip there. And then the next two buildings are both garages with nobody living in them. It's just strictly garages. So it's not like something that would be an inconvenience to anyone. And of course, with the gas line and all the utilities, just right there at the first beginning of the corner of the garage, it would make the most sense to put the unit right there, which we show on the blueprint there.
Larry, one thing they talked about was one thing that's been a concern in the past is if they need to get around the side for fire or safety or anything like that. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you got a good setback on that other side there.
Yes.
Would they be willing to commit to keep that open and free and clear for?
Absolutely.
So if we had a deed restriction, they would be willing to put that on just to make sure that not just them, but they're going to know it. You're going to tell them it's the guy who buys it next.
Yes.
Okay.
as you well know, sheds, fences, and generators can be the bane of our existence. So I'm assuming as you plan for new homes and so forth, you're aware of that. And so you will make accommodations so that those generators don't interfere with the setbacks. Am I correct in that assumption?
And I will say, we have seen that in the past with some of the designs. And I did look back. Yeah, there was no one who was even listed as a designer on this one. So I don't know. Who knows?
Well,
in his views.
True. No, I'm very big on trying to follow the rules.
Do we need any kind of covenant or anything on that
I
side?
would recommend it. And we've drafted up just some verbiage and we can give that to you. I'll even give it to you. And we just go on the face of deed. And again, it's not this owner that we're concerned about. It's the next one who buys it. And, you know, the first thing they want to do is put shrubs because the neighbor's looking in their window or something. Who knows? I don't.
Calls Rico and we can't get through there.
Yeah, Rico needs to pay for a new shed and yeah. Just that verbiage right there, Larry. All they'd have to do is deed from themselves to themselves, which Steve can do because he did the first one. And just have it recorded, and that's going to tie them in that way. Again, it's assuring we have at least one good side. And I say we. I'm not the one who's tromping out there. It's the fire department guys.
Kevin's the guy that.
Yeah.
We kind of.
With their pack and their hose and their pumps and.
Yeah.
Or even worse, a backboard or something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Wait, first we have to see it. Okay, thank you, Larry. Anybody in support? Anybody in opposition? Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve with the covenant on the deed.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, moved and seconded to approve as presented with the covenant as a part of that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
So Hayes, okay, Hayes is here. So give me just a minute. Let me jump back.
Sorry I'm so late.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So jumping back up to variance 2025-117 for Harvey Hayes. This petition for variance which permit allowing a residence and deck to remain as constructed 15.5 feet from the north right of way when variance 2024-196 granted 19 feet. Property is located on the south side of D18 lane and 0 feet east of D18 lane in Turkey Creek Township. Right there's the structure in question. This property was before the hearing officer back in September. At that time, had an older mobile home on the property. Had some pretty extensive discussion about a survey because there was a lot of question on whether or not the setbacks were accurate. Petitioner at that time insisted, nope, I know where the property line is, we're good. Hearing officer went with it and did approve it at that. Along with that, he approved that the structure could be modified, but if it was taken all the way down, it had to come back in for a hearing. In this case, once we saw what was done, the structure had been removed all the way down to the frame, rebuilt all the way up, and petitioner indicated that when he was in the office. Additionally, they did get a survey and ends up 15.5 feet opposed to 19 feet from the right-of-way. So they're back in asking to leave the structure in as it sits, 15.5 from the right of way and rebuilt in contradiction to the hearing officer's original decision. Right there's the structure in question. Again, it is admittedly a nice looking structure out there on Dewart, panning around the area, looking off towards the west. We're down on that south side, those lanes that come up. See other mobile homes down the road right there. Gravel, it's just a gravel road. Back around. Next shot, giving you a little different perspective. Main road coming in. Yeah, we'll freeze it right there. For this hearing, legal ad did properly appear in the newspaper and by affidavit surrounding owners were notified.
Hello, my name is Cale Hayes. I'm representing Harvey L. Hayes. My father is currently gone in Washington, D.C. for a history trip. So he asked me to come talk to you guys today about this. So him and my cousin, when we first bought the property, they went out, located the stakes with the metal detector because we were fighting a survey and it was going to be several weeks before we could get started with the project. So they located 2 pins and they drew out the area. Unbeknownst to them, the 3rd and 4th pin are actually on an angle. And so it shortened the property by, I don't know exactly the amount of feet. So it is our mess up that we did only locate 2 out of the 4 pins. And we did not have the exact segment on the other 2 pins. Again, they were fighting the survey, trying to get going with the build. So we just asked that we can leave the property as is since it is constructed. Underneath the porch does have a storage shelter, which is a concrete pad all the way underneath the porch for extra storage because of the lot being so small, or the house being so small, not having extra storage inside of it. So yeah.
How involved were you with the rebuild?
I did not personally do it. We did have a general contractor do the rebuild itself.
Because that's the other disappointing part that we made pretty clear. If it was torn all the way down, we wanted a chance to look at it again.
Okay.
And it's right where we knew it would be. That's why we requested a survey and said, hey, let's get there. And, what would it cost to cut the porch back? 4 foot.
I mean, you would only be able to have stairs go up into the house. It would cut off the whole front of the house because the porch is only 4 foot wide.
Probably 5, 10 grand
at minimum.
Okay.
I mean,
Who was your contractor?
His name is George. He just moved up from Arizona. His company name, I see the paper. I cannot place the name of his company. But the guy's name is George Rodriguez.
So would a contractor not ask that a permit be in place or whatever?
So they did have a permit at the granted setbacks with the conditions that was placed. So if the contractor wasn't told, don't take it down to the ground, he's not going to know. I'm assuming he was following what was specified by the owner to do the project. I can't imagine a contractor would just take it upon himself to tear the whole thing down.
Okay. Questions? No remonstrance?
No remonstrance in that area, admittedly. And I think if we would have had he's for something else. If we would have had the survey and had the proper dimensions to work off of, probably may have granted it anyways, but just they did not want to.
And that is our
spend that
for not getting that survey ahead of time and thinking that we had the right location. because like I said, we did find the 2 pens and we thought that we had the right amount of setback there.
And we're pretty adamant with him on that.
He was pretty adamant. He knew where the lines was. So,
Okay, thank you. You may be seated. So discussion.
If you cut that back, it'll just, like he said.
Admittedly.
just be steps.
yeah, it's gonna make it look bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think we need to leave it alone.
After the
Need to be
fact,
charged with that.
Act. So what I would, if that's what you're thinking, first act on the case itself. If you think it's reasonable to leave it as it sits, act on the variance and you would approve it. And then if you want to talk about a settlement in lieu of pursuing the violation, then we can do that.
Okay, so move.
We have a motion to approve the petition with the understanding there's a permit fee, $250.
Correct.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now, explain the settlement for everybody.
So it is in violation and, that goes back to the day that they started building in violation. And if we were to pursue the violation, we could pursue it for $10 to $300 a day for every day it's in violation, in addition to any attorney's fees that we accumulate through that process as well. So if we're talking September, pretty lengthy period.
This would go to court.
This would go to court, yep, and the judge would, act on it accordingly. In lieu of that, you can propose a settlement and say, okay, we don't think we need to go that route, but we do recognize there is a violation. We'll propose a settlement of X amount of dollars. If they accept it, closes it out. If they don't, then we would pursue it through the procedures. And kind of why I started asking what it would cost to, because the other resolve is cut it back and then he wouldn't have the violation. So that was why I was getting to that point, Ron.
Right.
What's the cost to modify it?
Well, again, they did. He did explain why, they
You
thought they had
understand
it.
what we're saying?
Yes.
He did explain why they thought they had the pins located, but they
But he
didn't.
was also very adamant
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that he knew, and
yeah,
otherwise I wouldn't have granted it.
yeah. So what kind of, you want to pursue this settlement and then what amount of dollars are we talking about here?
If it cost 10,000 to take it off, I'd say 2,000 for a settlement.
Discussion on that? Is that reasonable?
I think it's cheaper than tearing it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. My first gut instinct is that's kind of high, but what is right? I mean, I don't know.
Take it down to 1,500? That make it any better?
I'd be okay with that.
1,500? Okay, so we're proposing, let's make a motion to that effect.
I'll make a motion that we have a $1,500 settlement.
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, come on up. So they did approve it. You do need to get a,
Redo the permit
you need to
fee
get,
for $250
Yep.
and a settlement fee for
and
$1,500.
if you do accept it, then yeah, you would have a $1,500 settlement and we won't pursue the violation any further. And the other cautionary I'm going to throw in there is something like this comes up again, probably not going to get the grace that you are now.
Right.
So,
and we were very thankful for that. I'd assume that we're going to accept it because that is going to be a lot cheaper for us than to tear it back down, as well as it would ruin the property value. So
okay, you'll get if you want to take care of it before the 30-day period, just need to come in. It will be 2 separate checks, however.
They do need to be 2 separate checks.
Yeah, need to be 2 separate checks if you're paying by check.
Who do they need to be made out to?
Kosciuszko treasurer for no settlements are still the treasurer. The permit would be the area plan commission.
Okay, so let me just write this
Yep.
down so that way.
And you can call our office. We'll let you know that before you come to, if you want.
Okay. $250 to the area plan.
Right. And it actually goes to general.
1,500 to the clerk or treasurer.
Treasurer, but I will double check that if you don't fill out that part when you come in.
Okay. And then
They did
that
change
is due in 30 days?
Within the 30-day period from today. Yep.
Okay, so he should be back Friday. I will make sure that he is here before Monday morning.
I like it. He's going to make him take care of it. Good
Yes,
man.
exactly.
Good man.
I'm sorry for my pain in the butt, father.
We are streaming, so he may have seen that.
I hope he does.
Good. All right.
Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. The first case that we had that we did continue to July, Mr. Bowers here. Did you want to talk to me or just the board?
The board wants to, I'm here to tell what I did. I apologize for being.
I don't think, we did end up continuing him to July for the survey and the contractor's report, so that part is fine. I will talk, we can talk after then.
Yeah, we don't need to.
Only other, I've got two things to run by you real quick. One is a policy discussion in our office that we've been having, and I want some input from you guys. Under the zoning ordinance, we do not regulate play equipment. Okay, it specifically says play equipment in there, and we've been pretty liberal with what play equipment is. We never have, don't want to. We received a complaint from one of our towns that somebody was building something and went out and took a look at it. I went out, looked at it, looked like a shed. And I tagged it and said, hey, get a hold of us. You don't have a permit, you need to talk. Petitioner came, or the property owner came in and indicated he's building a playhouse for his kids. Okay. Admittedly, we have, and we wouldn't have discerned between playhouse and play equipment. Again, we try to be as user-friendly as possible, knowing that that kind of thing is there. Playhouses have become more of a structure than they used to be. You know, it used to be, I remember my kids' playhouse, either a Rubbermaid shed type structure with the pink furley, or it was a little stick built thing. These are going to be full-blown sheds or full-blown structures that are almost as intrusive as a house sometimes.
A she shed?
A she shed, yes. So essentially, once the kids are done with it, it becomes a shed. This one, we talked to him. We're not going to pursue probably that aspect of it because immediately we gave him direction.
Area.
Yes. But moving forward, do you see any discernible, I see both sides of that. But if this is a full solid structure, now we're getting a little bit further into it than just a swing set or a play set.
Well, I think as long as they meet the setbacks.
At minimum, meet the setbacks
Yeah,
with that stuff. And I think that's more than reasonable.
there is more. I mean, all you do is drive around.
Easily, right. And it wouldn't be something we'd be going back on any of these on, but I even took it a step further and think about the pirate ships you can buy or those things are huge. And so maybe
in the case of a shed.
Yeah.
It's a shed.
I agree.
You need a permit.
If it looks like a shed, it smells like a shed, it's a shed.
Yeah.
If it's play equipment, give us more detail. And that's probably where we need to do our diligence and say, generally, yes, but before I give you an answer, tell us what you're thinking. So you're good with, okay, you want to use the shed as a play equipment? Fine.
Yeah.
But it still needs, yeah. Okay. I play in it. It's my shed. All right. The last one I had for you, and this is on B1 Lane. You know where the old marina used to be? Okay. We had a hearing back in 23. And at that time, one of the storage buildings up on the hill, he was going to convert to a residence. There's a little discrepancy between the hearing and the results and what was talked about. We're going to listen to the tape yet to get make sure what was discussed. The results required 2 structures to be removed. One of them he agrees with, and yep, it was the old house is going to be torn down. The other one, if you remember the property, there used to be a small bait shop down by the water.
Yep.
Okay. I knew these two would know. Yeah. Well, no, the concrete was the gas pump compound. The building right there used to be a residential, it was used for residential, used for the bait shop. We noted that had to be removed. He said, no, it was the other barn up on the hill that I meant to have removed. If, when we listen to the tape, it's clear enough, are you fine with us just amending the ordinance without going back through a hearing to reflect truly? Okay. I thought more about it, Cheryl. So we'll listen to the tape. Exhibits, I can't discern through the exhibits. Otherwise, I would have just made that call. So I knew we'd see it today. So, yeah. Oh, Andy, I see the peanut gallery.
Sorry, we're almost done. Okay, this is one I brought before you last week for pre-BZA. This is for JT's mobile home, or sorry, JT's campground up on McKenna Road and south side of Bar Beach Chain. They had a hearing in 2018 that allowed them to have open porches. Since then, I have screwed up, and I know there are several other screen porches within the park. I mistakenly issued a permit for them to screen a porch with bug netting, technically not an open porch anymore. But what I presented before you last week was if it's okay for those open porches to remain essentially open, but with bug netting. Within
Still
the park.
considering it open, not considering the screening in this instance.
Yeah, no solid windows, no walls, still.
As long as they can see through it,
In this instance only.
yeah.
Yeah, no additional posts, anything like that. Obviously, they'd have to put in a door frame, but yeah.
Bug screening isn't a fire load.
Okay, so
And
It melts
and the
quickly.
the key here is visibility is not an issue, even if it does hinder visibility because they're hindering their own people, which they're going to take up with management if they really screw something up, opposed to a neighbor.
Do we need a motion or anything on that?
I'd say just a motion that, in this instance, screening is still considered opening for JTs only.
Ron's making that motion. Randy second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay.
Now we're done. Thank you, guys.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Well done. Thank you, guys.
You're having too much fun.